Hello, today we're going to do a brief overview on reflective writing. So, when talking about reflective writing, it's important to know what it is and when it can be used. So, I have found in my experience that reflective writing is best when you have students engage in a self reflection by writing their thoughts, feelings, insights, or just general overview of what they have learned or what they took away from a certain activity. The best time I found to use these can be at the end of a major assessment like an essay, a project, or a presentation, or it can be used on a weekly basis to reflect on what was taught that week. For example, they might do an exit ticket, or if you do like a reader's journal or have a notebook, you could have them, jot down bullet points or a paragraph of big takeaways for the week. When thinking about why to use it, um, some of the main benefits are that students do not always naturally reflect on their own, at least not in a formal way. It also helps them engage in metacognition, and it can also help students reinforce material. It also is a good way to sort of get them to think about ways of things that worked and didn't work for them, and it can also help them evolve in general as students. So here's an example of a piece of reflective writing that I had my honors 11th grade students do after they wrote and gave their speeches to the class. So what I did was I first started out by having them just understand what metacognition is. I think it's important for students to be aware that this is a helpful skill that people of all ages across all boards can utilize. And then to help guide their reflection, they had a series of things they had to do. They were given the choice to either reflect on the brainstorming process, sort of talking about what they felt was easy, what was hard for them, how they developed their speech, how they generated their ideas, or they could reflect on the revision process, what changes they made, how they came to the conclusion to make those changes. Did someone help them make the changes? Or were they able to, on their own, work through what to add, what to change, what to maybe enhance their speech with? They were also required to answer these two numbers 3 and 4. They had to first talk about the final product, which was what they felt were their strengths and weaknesses, and then what they had intended for their speech and whether or not their delivery of that speech matched their intention. And then the last thing they had to do was they were able to free vent. I found this was the most helpful for me as their teacher because it gave them the space to sort of talk about what they felt was beneficial, what they liked about the assignment, what maybe I could have changed for future things. And I actually got a lot of really excellent feedback. I also had a lot of students tell me after they did this that they appreciated having to sit down and really think about what changes they could have made, and their responses were really authentic. And you could really tell that they had thought through the choices they had made, and they maybe would not have formally done that had they not engaged in this brainstorming activity. I had students do this the day after they had given their speech in class, and then they were given a 25-point participation grade for doing this, which again gave them the idea that it was important and worthwhile to do, but also then supported it with a grade in class. So, all in all, when thinking about reflective writing and having students engage in reflective writing, really ask yourself, what are the goals? What's the purpose of why you want those students to engage in a reflection? Do you want them to think about the solution to a problem, or do you want them to think about the, objectives of the week or the lesson? Did they do some kind of activity or project that required a great deal of time or effort? And if so, what parts of that process do you want them to be thinking about? But personally, in my experience, I have found that the more I prompt students to reflect, the better they get at it and the more natural it becomes, which is the ultimate goal of reflective writing.